Hello everyone, Ephraim Gagas here, and this is the Blunt Whistle. Now, I would like to continue on a series I started on the role of education in nation building. Now, someone would say, why would you want to talk about a topic like that? Truth is, there's no shortage of information on the role of education to an individual and the role of education to a society or a community of people. But it's worth talking about, especially when our focus is on the continent of Africa. You see, anytime I have an opportunity to introduce myself, I've always said I'm someone who is very passionate about economic growth and development in Africa, and I believe you are too. So, together, I believe we are on the mission and on the great project of wanting to build societies and, of course, a great continent we can be proud to live in and be proud to call our own. Now, before I proceed, let me take out the time to appreciate those of you that have taken the time to practically engage with virtually every single content we've made available on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, and virtually all the social media channels. In fact, some of you have taken a great step of subscribing on the YouTube channel. Now, that means quite a lot to me. I appreciate you a lot. Now, I'll use the opportunity to tell those of you who are yet to do so to please subscribe. It will encourage me more, but it will also provide you with an opportunity to get a notification on time anytime we make available any content in the social media space. So just hit the subscribe button and let's continue. I've argued consistently that education is to an individual, education is to a given society what blood is to the human body. Now, while there's no shortage of information on the importance of education, it leaves one with a grieving concern if the focus is on the state of education in Africa. And I know we have 54 countries in Africa, but there's no single country you can single out, whether it is Nigeria or South Africa or Ghana or Cameroon, Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda. You can go on and on and on. There's no single country you can single out and then be able to say emphatically that the education system or the level of development of the education sector in such a country is at par with what is available or what is obtainable in advanced nations of the world. And the problem is not necessarily one of development generally, because what we see consistently every now and then is that young people are always on the search for scholarship opportunities to go study abroad. Now, those that can afford to go and study, particularly children of the elite or those who are politically connected in society, they go abroad to study. Why not study in Africa or any country in Africa? Because the developed institution systems of learning that we have in advanced nations of the world didn't happen by accident. Leaders in those countries invested in making sure that their institutions are well developed and are able to educate productively. So it's clear to me that leaders in Africa either don't understand the importance of education, the utility of education, or have failed to see value in the education of our young people, a burgeoning youthful population we have in this great continent. Now, there's a lot of information out there you can find on how that it appears to be a consensus on the understanding of the role of young people in nation building. It's not even a topic for debate at all. But how can young people be able to contribute to nation building? And they should be able to contribute. But how will they be able to do that if they are not well empowered? And what better way is there for you to empower young people than to provide them with the right information, with the right knowledge they need, first to actualize their full potentials and then be able to contribute to nation building? Now, let me make it clear. I'm not referring to formal education alone. Education in this context, I'm referring to any information or knowledge that an individual or society needs in order to actualize their full potential. That's what I'm talking about. You see, it is when first of all we understand the goal of education that we can begin to talk about what kind of curriculum do we need to have in place. Or the one that currently exists, do we need to review it? What should constitute such a curriculum? Do we need to look at marginalized sections of the population in order to afford them with quality and affordable education? And then a lot of those questions can come into play. But first of all, it appears to me that on the supply side of education, for which government is the major critical stakeholder, government does not appear to see education with the value that will make them be able to prioritize it the way they prioritize other sectors of the economy, isn't it? So it leaves me with a concern that there appears to be a conspiracy kind of, that those in the leadership appear to benefit from the ignorance of the people because it's easier to govern them. It's easier, actually, the word is to control a people who don't understand what their rights are, even though they could be constitutionally guaranteed. Because if people don't understand what their rights are, they cannot demand for them. And if you empower people with the right kind of education, they will know there are certain rights which belong to them and they can demand for them, including accountability from those people who are in government offices to govern. So what is the goal of education in Africa? Or are we to conclude, and perhaps rightly so, that we are where we are because government has failed to invest qualitatively and quantitatively as well in building the right kind of infrastructure that will provide especially our young population with the right kind of education they need to actualize their self-potentials? This is very, very important. Now, my question is, how are those nations of the world, I mean advanced nations of the world, whether it is the United States of America, Germany, Japan, the United Kingdom, and you can go on and on, how are they able to build strong systems of education that our young people are gravitating there in order to be able to attain? How are they able to do it? Do we need aliens from outer space to come build our own education system for us? What is really wrong? And how come government has not been able to prioritize education in the continent? These are questions that we need to ask, because it is impossible, and I'll make this very clear, it is very, very impossible, highly impossible, for us to talk objectively about sustainability in Africa without talking about the right kind of investment in providing and affording our young population with the right kind of education that they need. I mean, is there even a future without the young population? Can we talk about sustainability about such a future, assuming we even believe in it, without believing that such future can only be bright if we invest on our young population? This is very, very important. Now, another issue, of course, is when you look at the curriculums that we operate in virtually every country in Africa, they appear to me to be replicas of the curriculum that were handed over to us by the colonial masters. So many years down the line that we can claim to have independence, there has not been a significant effort made at reviewing and revising those curriculums to make sure that they are made tailored fit for our education needs in the continent. And this is very important. Well, another issue is the fact that when I say our education institutions in Africa do not educate productively, I'm talking about relevant information that young people need, or that the people need, that is consistent with recent 21st century thinking. Nobody is just talking about going to the four walls of a classroom and then, sitting down to be taught by some teacher or some lecturer. That's not just it. We're talking about being able to be taught how to think critically and solve problems. That is the in thing now. Now, whether it is at the elementary level of education or at the tertiary institutions of learning, as far as Africa is concerned, we've not made significant effort at teaching critical thinking and problem solving. So what we are doing is that we are preparing, as we like to think, we're preparing our young people for the job market. But what is the job market about? Are there no problems in organizations? Are there no problems in the public sector or in the private sector that we expect these people to go and solve? And don't you even think perhaps it is one of the basic reasons why we have a lot of development challenges confronting us, or are confronted by, that we have no clue at all on how to solve them. And every now and then we run to people who have seen value in their education system and have been able to educate themselves productively